So now let us look at some questions based on the last standard limit. It is 1 power infinity type. Limit x tends to 0, 1 plus x whole power 1 by x is equal to e. Limit x tends to infinity, 1 plus 1 by x whole power x is also equal to e. So the questions might be asked like this. Find limit x tends to 0, 1 plus sin x power cot x. What is the value of this limit? So now let us try to convert this into this formula. First, if you put x is equal to 0, you're getting 1 and cot 0 is infinity. So you're getting 1 power infinity type. So what we do is limit as x tends to 0, you can see that sin x also tends to 0. So you have 1 plus sin x, and cot x can be written as cos x by sin x. So that is equal to, so as you can see, sin x tends to 0, 1 plus sin x whole power something like 1 by sin x. So as you can see, limit x tends to 0 and sin x also tends to 0. So 1 plus sin x whole power 1 by sin x. Can I write this whole power cos x? Yes. So now as sin x tends to 0, 1 plus sin x whole power 1 by sin x, this whole thing becomes e. So you're getting e power limit x tends to 0 cos x. So this is tending to e, and power cos x is applied with the limit x tends to 0. So as x tends to 0, where does cos x go? Cos 0, which is equal to 1. So you're getting e power 1, e as the answer. With respect to this 1 power infinity model, you have one more important formula which you need to keep in mind. So if have limit x tends to a, fx power g of x. So if you have a limit of the form limit x tends to a, fx power g of x, and if on direct substitution, you get the 1 power infinity form. So if you have fx power g of x, and as x tends to a, if you put x is equal to a, if you get 1 power infinity form, that is as x tends to a, f of x tends to 1 and g of x tends to infinity. Then, so if you get 1 power infinity form, then limit x tends to a, fx power g of x can be written as e power limit x tends to a, g of x times f of x minus 1. So this is a very important simplification that might be useful in some of the questions. So how do we get this? So let us try to see how we can get this. So limit x tends to a, have fx power g of x, fx power g of x, right? Next, as we have discussed, as x tends to a, this f of a has to go to 1 and g of a has to go to infinity, right? So this can be written as limit x tends to a, 1 plus fx minus 1 whole power g of x, right? 1 plus fx minus 1 is nothing but f of x power g of x. So that is equal to limit x tends to a, 1 plus fx minus 1 whole power 1 by f of x minus 1 whole power f of x minus 1 times g of x, right? I have divided 1 by f of x minus 1 and I have multiplied by f of x minus 1. Effectively, I have not done anything extra. This is also right now f of x power g of x. But as x tends to a, fx goes to 1. So f of x minus 1 goes to 0. So as f of x minus 1 goes to 0, 1 plus f of x minus 1 whole power 1 by f of x minus 1 looks like 1 plus x whole power 1 by x as x goes to 0. So this goes to e, right? So this is equal to e power limit x tends to a, f of x minus 1 times g of x. So this goes to e power, you have to evaluate this function as limit x tends to a. So limit x tends to a, fx power g of x is equal to e power limit x tends to a, fx minus 1 times g of x.